As soon as I hit the button, it says we're live.
Well, that's a good job.
But you know me. I need to check and see if it really is live. Like that's
I think it's 15 seconds on live.
Well, that's just a whole nother thing. Because that's not even the right thing. We're gonna just bye-bye to that. Good morning, Sean.
And good morning, Jamaica. How are you?
Well,
And good morning, everyone that's joining us.
Yeah, I think today is gonna be one of those
days?
One of those not great tech days. I think that there's about to be some tech situations happening.
Great content days, though, right?
Of course.
Great content today, right?
Of course, absolutely.
Good morning, everyone out there tuning in now or later. Good to be in community with you. Glad to see that folks want to be a part of this conversation.
Yeah, and we'll see if the chat is working. Because remember, last week it worked.
Yeah.
So we'll see. Let's see if it works now. Ready? Boom! What are you talking about this morning?
What you got in there?
Yeah.
The origin stories, local federal stimulus funds. Definitely need to talk about that.
Mm-hmm.
And upcoming events. So let's check in.
Yeah. Somebody on Facebook needs to say good morning. That's the only way I'm going to know if the chat's working.
Okay.
So, but while they're doing that, how are you doing this morning, Sean?
I'm all right. I'm okay. Worked out this morning. I feel good. Got me some new dumbbells, right?
Yeah.
Got some extra weights. And yeah, I'm back in that mode of trying to be consistent with my workout. And stay tuned. We may have some health and wellness conversations that will be coming up soon.
Yeah.
I'm really looking forward to that because we can't do the work. We can't live life. You know what I mean? Quality of life is also about your health, not just about money, right? So I'm looking forward to those type of conversations, talk about diet, how we eat, because, man, in a lot of the communities where I grew up, like we didn't have a lot of, the diets weren't all that healthy. Like going to the store, buying quarter waters and all them snacks and nonsense, like it becomes ingrained habit, and that lasts a lifetime.
I'm just going to say those little jugs of juice were really good. I know it's a whole bunch of sugar, but it was. And good morning, Sage. Saw the good morning. Jeffrey, good morning. Happy spring. I know my cousin John's watching right now, so I'm going to say good morning, even though John didn't say good morning in the chat, but it's okay. I forgive you. I'm feeling a little hype.
Okay.
High energy. Like, so if we're checking in, high energy and feeling comfortable. Yeah, I did. I got to work out this morning and I need to eat better though. So like that whole conversation about
diet and all that, yeah.
Yeah. I grew up on a bunch of crap and I was like, I'm just going to eat that way the rest of my life until, the doctor said, don't do that. But we're not talking about that today.
Not today.
Not today.
Important conversation.
We've got lots of things to talk about today. We will find other times to talk about health and wellness. We still didn't do the podcast. Like maybe that's the podcast.
Maybe. We'll see.
Because every month should be Black August.
I mean, we take suggestions too. Like if y'all out there, y'all looking at us, you're like, well, this is what we think y'all should do. You know what I mean? Like you're interested in hearing, just let us know. Put it in the chat. And we'll definitely consider it.
But for today, as Sean had already mentioned, we're going to dig into our origin story and then talk about federal stimulus money and what the upcoming events are that are happening. But I do always want to remind folks that we are on both YouTube and Facebook.
Yeah.
Live Monday mornings, 8:30 a.m. So if you're not already following us on YouTube, you can go and find us Untitled and Free. And if you are watching on YouTube, then make sure you find us on all the other social media as well. On Facebook, it's Untitled and Free. On Twitter, guess what? Untitled and Free, where we have the least amount of following. I don't know why. But Instagram is always on fire. Apparently people like our Instagram. And then if you haven't already, make sure you join our email list because this morning, Monday morning email goes out, which all of the links to the stuff we'll talk about today will be in that email blast for upcoming events, as well as, nice little tidbits inside our emails. I think we do good.
You know what? I got to add some folks to that list too, right? Because some folks I met over the last week.
Right.
Like, hey, yo, we want to hear more. Could you, put us on the email list, got the information.
So we should
still got to upload it, yeah.
Before I send the email?
That's right.
Okay.
Take care of that for sure. I mean, there are community folks out here in Schenectady, a couple business owners on Albany Street. Special shout out to Holiday. Appreciate you, bro. We got a lot to talk about. Iva, etc. So looking forward to it.
Speaking of Schenectady, origin stories, and a bunch more folks saying good morning.
Mm-hmm.
I see Abby. I see Anthony. What up, Anthony? Good morning. And
what up, man?
Some conversations about other things we could talk about. Yes, please keep adding stuff to the chat. Thank you for that, Abby. So where you want to start with your origin story? Are we going to do individual origin stories, or are we going to just talk about the origin story of the organization? I feel like we didn't decide that. We're live.
No, we're live, and you often, come up with stuff. Tell me the last second, this is what we're doing, and I'm like, hey, all right. This is why I'm number 2. I appreciate it.
Origin stories was your idea.
Yeah, I know.
Okay.
I'm just messing around.
Yeah.
No, I feel like, to be honest with you, we don't have all the time, but I think it's important for y'all to hear kind of how, we got started with all of this work. And, you know what I mean? And to think about yourselves, how you came to the work, and because that's what anchors you to it, right? If you what is that thing? What is that piece that finally got you started, got you initiated, got you thinking about the community? Did you always think about the community? I mean, I would say that's really, unlikely, seeing that we were born and raised, most of us anyway, in a capitalist society, right? That focuses has a focus on rugged individualism, and has the bootstrap mentality to do it on your own, right? Not many of us came up, with the idea it's about the community, thinking about the collective work, having an analysis about, what it is to fight against oppression and exploitation. Like, a lot of us we weren't born with that, right? Yeah. I wasn't. And I'm not gonna get I feel like I could talk forever, about my beginnings, right? Mm-hmm. But I'll do some broad strokes and just say I was born in Schenectady, New York. I lived in what is still one of the poorest communities in the state, right? I grew up in the era of deep police corruption. Right here in the city of Schenectady, if you're in your 40s, late 30s, if you grew up in the 90s or late 80s, mid 80s, you know exactly what I'm talking about. There was a federal raid on our own police department, right? Yep. The feds came in, swept through, and
Chief of police,
all
the way down.
Yeah, I grew up in that era. I grew up in the era where I watched, military vehicles and choppers fly over Hamilton Hill, raiding people's apartments back in the early 90s. I grew up in that era. You know what I mean? I grew up then. And what I saw and what I was a part of, what I experienced, shaped a lot of my life. You know what I mean? It shaped a lot of my life, my perspectives, my outlook, all of it. And I, when I look back on those experiences, I have an analysis to get into what that was like, and what, not just what it was like, but what the impact of it was.
Right. Yeah.
Right. So think about what the impact on the influence on decision making, choices, values, all of that type of stuff. And it took me going through a whole hell of a lot to get to where I am today. And I'm gonna tell you right now, I love who I am today. Right. I love who I am today. I love how I show up. I love that I fight for my community. I love that I've made so many friends, associates, and otherwise throughout the capital region and beyond, just showing the way I do. Right. I'm finally, I feel like I got to a place, and it took me years to get to this place, but I got to a place where I show up as me, and that's it. I don't show up with trying to be like this or do like this or thinking about what someone else is thinking about me and all of that type of stuff. I showed up the way I do. You know what I mean? So if anyone wondered, everyone knows, hey, Sean has been to prison, right? He's formerly incarcerated. He's what was considered by the dominant culture to be a bad guy, right?
Yeah.
However, all that being said, there's some people that will never let that go. There's some people that will always hold me to that. But I'm going to say this to them and to anybody else, whoever is feeling as if they're not, I guess, worthy or valued or whatever. We are the sum total of all our parts.
Yeah.
So at the same time, I may have been a part of a lot of things that I'm not happy or proud of. I've been a whole lot of things that I'm very happy and proud of.
Yeah.
Right? I'm very happy and proud of. And I think that none of us is tied to the only one thing they did in their life, right? We're tied to all these things. And we're complete human beings. And that's how I show up in the world. And that's how I accept people in the world. So coming to, I guess, moving out of that more broader stroke, which is what I said I do, coming to the organization, man, like thinking about that, like me and you working together, realizing the spark, this energy, this dynamic, this like, yo, we see things really similar, but see things different enough that we don't do. I mean, we're not just redundant. Like, it's just like,
yeah,
it's really, really valuable, I think, in doing this type of work, because I believe there is no one way of doing it, right? There is no one best way. You need multiple perspectives, and this is the collective work, right? You need multiple ways of looking at something and addressing it. You need as many people involved in crafting the solutions in order for us to really, 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 get the changes that we deserve. Put the pressure where we need to put the pressure, et cetera, et cetera. So coming with you on this ride, all of 2020 has been kind of, one of the joys of my life and honors of my life when I think about it, because what would I be doing if I couldn't do this work? There's a saying. The saying is like, it's like, find the thing that you love and you'll never work a day in your life.
Right.
Right?
You got the saying right.
Yeah, I did get it right.
Yes.
Which is a thing, because I don't ever get sayings right. I was
worried. I was worried. I'm like, he said it's a saying.
Yeah. But yeah, that's kind of.
So
yeah.
A bunch of folks know I also am from Schenectady.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting. I've heard your story a bunch of times, right? So but when I'm listening right now, I was thinking about the fact that you and I grew up in the same city.
Yeah.
I'm older, which Sean enjoys telling people.
By a lot.
I was born in 1974. It's not that much.
I was born in 1988.
He's a liar. So just for this instance, to be clear. But grew up in the same city, in the same neighborhood, right? I grew up on Hamilton Hill. It's real. But we didn't meet each other. We weren't in the same circles.
No.
And we had, while there were similarities in our experiences, there were vast differences for a whole host of reasons. My daddy wouldn't let me go outside. So I had this protective bubble that I existed in for the first 13 years of my life. It doesn't mean that I didn't see what was happening in my community, but I saw it through a different lens. Mm-hmm. And I also was treated differently. As a cisgendered woman, life is completely different. Mm-hmm. Walking outside that door every single day. And the biggest things that I can remember being told constantly over and over and over again is, no, you can't do that. And it was always tied to my gender. Yeah. Right. No, I'm sure in school sometimes it was tied to my race, but it was very strongly this, no, girls don't do that. Oh, what are you doing? You're a girl. Like, thanks for telling me what I am. Really needed that. Until lots of people know my dad died when I was 13 and the walls came crashing down and I saw Schenectady in a whole new light. Yeah. And it was in the 80s. And so I saw all the cops and all the corruption and full force of being treated a certain kind of way, living where I lived, looking the way I looked. And it was harsh. And I instantly, between survival and existing, also began to recognize the world around me, right? At 13. and grew up, and at some point, like, I don't know if I can put a pin in it, but at some point I was like, yeah, no, you don't get to tell me what I get to do. And no, you shouldn't tell other people what they get to do. And who are you to decide? And just no. Wait, no. And so fast forward, I was, first an advocate for my mom with her medical needs. And then as soon as I became a mom myself, shit, I wish you would tell me what my kid can or can't do. Showing up in the schools, education was my first fight. To be able to say, no, my kid doesn't have ADHD. You just ain't teaching her well enough. And all the fights after that, funding, schools underfunded. The biggest fight that I hope to hear some good news about today or tomorrow. Thinking about the New York State budget, but throughout that journey of always being in Schenectady and always seeing injustice and my personal trials and tribulations, and thinking it can't be that this is the best we got.
Yeah.
Because like you said, we're worthy.
Yeah.
We're worthy of so much more. And trying to follow that path and figure out how can I do the thing that I love and be the place I want to be, and also use the skills and knowledge that I have to have an impact on this world and make it better for my children and for other people. And lo and behold, all of us. All started on Facebook. February 2020. It was an impulse. It was. And I'm glad I did it. And I'm glad I told you were in it. Because, I've said it before and I'll say it over and over again. There's nobody else I'd rather be in this fight with. We do this work well, and we lead with intention. That it's all of us. Yeah. All of us. Yeah. And there's a lot of detail to the origin story of us as individuals, of us as an organization, and the number of people that watch this video, they have origin stories in their lives that they're a part of, that they're actively a part of right now, that there'll be moments that impact you, that change your trajectory, that make you think differently, that make you react differently. Yeah. And we all need to be able to be reflective and think about where we were, where we are, where we're going. What is our purpose, and how the hell are we going to change all this shit? Because it needs to change.
That is a whole fact.
Yeah. Superheroes, origin stories.
Origin story, right? So, I mean, listen, we're talking in really, really broad strokes, but I want to, like, if you don't mind, because we have all the time in the world, but when you think about that time when it clicked for you, or like that you may have always had some ideas or whatever the hell, but it clicked that you could do something. You were outraged enough where you were like, what? Like, what was that moment for you? For me, just really, really quickly, it was while I was incarcerated, reading the hundreds upon hundreds of cases and realizing it, like, as I was reading those cases and going, because you get all the details, all the background story, like all this other crap that's involved in the case, you hear it all, and you're like, holy shit, like you realize the injustice there, where you're seeing, a guy defending, a black man in a situation, I seen a black man defending his property, defending his son on his property, shoot at some other white folks that had weapons and all this other stuff, go to prison for 15 years, right? And then lost his appeal on some like technicality stuff. Right. And he was convicted in some small town in New York. Like, this is one example. So like for me, it was like watching all these stories and then watching folks that I knew that were, after looking at their case and hearing them tell their stories, they were innocent of the crime, sitting in prison, or people that were guilty of crimes that were sentenced to decades in prison. Right. But like what are you like? So like the imbalance of it all, like really, really enraged me and got me to thinking more and more and more. Like, there's other instances, but like that was some of the stuff that changed for me. What was it for you? What was the spark for you?
Yeah, it's hard for me to pin down. There's a thread of me just feeling constantly like, no, you're not going to do this. And I really, between my dad and my mom, like it was this perfect combination, because my father always would say to me, "You're a Miles. Do you know what that means? Like this, you can do anything." This one person that I looked up to just constantly said to me, no, you can do whatever you want to do. What are you talking about? You're a Miles. And my mother was just tough. She was just her. Anybody that knew Susan Miles, she took no shit. And so when my mother would go to the doctor's office and they'd be like, "Oh, well, you just need to take this medicine." I'm like, no, whoa, slow down. Why? What is this medicine for?
Yeah.
What are you treating? Like, what? You don't just tell her she's doing this thing. Like, what's up? When I worked in strip clubs, and like guys would just be like, "Oh, I'm just gonna smack somebody on the ass." Whoa, nah, pump your brakes. Nah, this is not a touchy-feely kind of situation. What are you doing? You don't get to just treat her like that. Inside school districts, like when teachers would talk some kind of way, whoa, what do you know? Like, I just always had this feeling, I guess, of if it's wrong, it's wrong, and somebody's got to say something. I think though that it was Mark Emanation that allowed me to believe that's what I was doing, and that it was actually having an impact. Like, there's a difference between, oh, I feel like I should do this thing, and then knowing that you're creating change, whether it's in an individual instance, if it's for a group of people, if it's helping somebody get groceries, whatever it is, that you're creating a change. And I feel like Mark Emanation helped me believe that about myself. And at that point, I was like, oh, wait, I really can do this? Like, this is not just let's do it.
Yeah.
Like, let's go.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So, I mean, so that's some of our beginning. There's some of us talking about like how we got to the work and what, where our passion, I guess, is steeped in, and why we do the things we do. For me, it's about building leaders, as well as changing the structure myself, like playing my part, but making sure that other leaders that are coming up that are also doing some of the lifting, because it's not one of us, it's all of us. That's the motto.
Yeah.
And it's a very, very true bill. So look, that's where we're at. Good morning, Queen Simba Fox. And yes, Tom, a lot of what we said, that ain't right. Right? That ain't right. That's serious. It ain't right.
There's so much. I do want to lift up the whole, building leaders thing. It took time for me to realize I was a leader. And I still feel uncomfortable saying it out loud. But in realizing that, I also realized I had a responsibility to share my knowledge with as many people as possible, and to learn from as many people as possible, because being a leader doesn't mean you know everything. It means you're in a position that allows you to help other people in a certain kind of way. And that includes, how are you sharing your knowledge with them so that they too can then share that knowledge with other people and create change and come to the table with ideas that you never would have thought of. So yeah, like there's no way we do this work if we are not doing it in a way that builds and identifies. There are already leaders out there. We just don't know.
That's a fact. And leadership is to me, it's a lot about responsibility, right?
Yeah.
To those around you. Not simply leading for the sake of leading or getting your own way. It's about making sure you're responsible for others. And respecting that responsibility. So look, there we are. We way over time.
we just talking.
We can't just get anything done in a timely fashion.
But there's some real reasons why we need more leaders.
Hell yeah, talk about it.
Federal stimulus money that's coming to the Capital District. Albany, Schenectady, Troy, Saratoga, townships, villages. They're all going to get a whole bunch of money.
Yeah.
I have not yet found out how much Schenectady is getting. we do know that Albany's getting $86.5 million.
Yeah.
It sounds like a lottery commercial, but there's no predetermination on how that money is spent.
Yeah.
We know from experience that what localities will do is the elected representatives, I'm not calling them leaders because being elected to office does not guarantee that you are a leader.
Mm-hmm.
The elected representatives will just, talk amongst themselves and say, oh, we know this is what's best. We know this is what the community wants. Kathy Sheehan put out a bullshit survey that says, here are the things that you should choose from because I'm going to decide for you the things you should choose from. And then when you choose from these things, I'll say that you chose. Kathy, do better. Do better, Kathy. I'm not even seeing anything from Schenectady.
Nothing.
They didn't even mention they getting the damn money.
Nope. Why would they?
Because they want.
I mean, it's the same
input,
type
right?
of like engagement that they always had. They want no engagement. They don't want people voicing their opinions on where the money is going because they I believe probably feel, hey, we know what's best, right? And that's what we're trying to shake up in this city.
Yeah.
And in other localities as well, but like particularly here, trying to make sure, like, listen, you have to listen to the voices of those of us that are most directly impacted and harmed by what has been a history of neglect, right? Oppression and exploitation. Like you don't end up at a place where you have a community that has such a high poverty rate by accident, right? It didn't happen by accident. It's not like, we have this problem in Niskayuna or we have this problem in other areas across the county. We have this problem particularly in where you find the most Black and brown people, and that's a problem.
Yeah.
Right? So we're like, hey, these things need to happen.
I do want to lift up. What up, Dylan? Thanks for sharing. Stating that the stimulus money cannot go to pay benefits, pensions, etc. That's like good to know. At least there are rules about how they cannot spend the money.
It's simply, the money, for all intents and purposes, is to go to the communities that have been so devastated by the pandemic, the loss of economic opportunity, health issues, like all of it. Like we know what this money is supposed to be going for.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
We believe that. What do you got? Something? You got something?
No. We do. No. Yes, it is because we do know. And by the we, I just want to be intentional and specific about the we we're speaking about.
Okay, who's the we?
The we are the marginalized folks that are struggling every single day just to survive, have no opportunity to thrive. Those are the people closest to the problem that have the greatest solutions to creating change, because this stimulus money is supposed to be coming in as a reaction to COVID, right?
Yes.
I mean, we needed the money before COVID, but this is COVID relief funds that are coming in to support the harm that was caused because of lost jobs and people facing, extenuating circumstances, rent, all of that type of stuff. So if it's in reaction to things getting worse, what are cities doing not just to get us back to status quo, but to get us on a path that actually allows people to, what do I always say? Thrive! And not just struggle to survive. What do those programs look like? What does that funding look like? And we've heard some of it. We've heard people talk about rent, right?
Yeah.
Paying past due rent so people are not evicted. We've heard people talk about job trainings and what that actually means, right? Those job training programs. Childcare comes up very often.
Yep.
Because if you have children, but you can't afford childcare, or you're working just to pay childcare. I've been in that situation. It's not fun when you're just like, here's my paycheck, give it to the daycare. Here's my paycheck, give it to the daycare. Oh, look, and I can buy a bag of potatoes. Like, it's just, there are things that cities could do. And here in Schenectady, if they don't fix these damn parks in our poorest communities, it's gonna be a thing for me.
No, I feel you. The parks like Hamilton Hill, like Hamilton Hill has got a lot of issues, man. The mulch, the upkeep, it isn't what it should be. Period. Right? Like we get that, but I want to like think about maybe. So there are programs that already exist here, right?
Yeah.
They are not supported enough.
Agreed.
They are. They need to be able to expand some of those programs.
Absolutely.
We need way more. Like I think ability to reach more and more people. Like I said this the other day when we were on Step City Hall. Like I'm walking in our community and I'm looking around, and I think about walking past those new affordable housing buildings and realizing that I'm here looking at a building being constructed by people who don't live in this community, people that are taking that money that they're earning, rightfully so, they're earning money and taking it right out of our community, going somewhere else with no real opportunity being thought of for the people that live here. Yeah. We were think they were thought it was an afterthought, right?
$75 million. Gary McCarthy says it all the time.
Think about that. So think about the fact that you got a guy or a woman or a person just from the community walking past that site without a job.
Yeah.
Right? Maybe an EBT card, maybe whatever, going to wherever the hell they're going with that job, with all that money being made on that site.
Yep.
Right? Like, why wouldn't you have thought of, this is what we have here. This is what we need to do. We got this opportunity to have this project done. We need to ensure that this is how you build a community. You don't build a community just with buildings. You don't put up a nicer building and say, this is building a community. You build the community by helping build the people. And giving them the opportunity. Yeah.
No. Well, our mayor here in the city of Schenectady has said things like, when it relates to city jobs, right?
I don't know what's going on with my hair this morning. It's like,
you're having hair
issues. Yeah, it's like, God.
There's the civil service exam, right?
Yeah.
And we're talking about equity because that's the other part of this funding that's coming in. Is it's supposed to be equitably going into communities that were impacted, which are the same communities that are always disproportionately impacted. So the Schenectady mayor, when talking about the civil service exams and those jobs that are good paying jobs that have healthcare and other types of benefits, pointed out that the entry level positions are filled by the people of color.
Yeah.
And that the higher positions are far less diverse. He said it like that. That's his way of saying it's a bunch of white people that have the higher positions. And he said, there's nothing I can do about the civil service exam. It's out of my control. Well, Gary, here's where you're wrong. Take some of that money and create programs or give it to an organization or group, foundation that will have trainings around the civil service exam.
Yeah.
Get people prepared for taking the civil service exam because it's not that black and brown people are not smart enough. We are. What do you always say?
Equity, equality.
Something about opportunity, access, opportunity.
Oh no, it's basically, it's about meeting human potential, right? Allowing the potential of any individual, and especially individuals in our community, which is what we're talking about, giving them the opportunity so their potential can rise to it. That's it. Yeah. Like we all have this, I think, as human beings, this potential, this quality that needs to be supported.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Needs to be given opportunity, and then the rest will take care of itself, right? We don't need anything else but that. And you do that, and we'll solve a lot of the problems that I think personally that we have in our society. Period.
Yeah.
Like you're talking about defund the police, invest in communities. Like we don't need more people. So an officer or the police department is addressing an individual, right? And by focusing on that individual as the problem, and then trying to remove that person from the society, you haven't done nothing to address the conditions in which that person arrived at that situation. So what I'm saying is there's an opportunity, I think, to address what the needs are beyond just simply an individual, but on the societal level. And that is investing in those programs, in those opportunities that will make the difference.
Yep.
Housing will make the difference. Economic opportunity will make the difference. Mental health will make the difference.
Yep.
Substance abuse treatment on down the line will make the difference.
and they could invest now so that there's a greater impact later.
Yeah.
You mentioned the police. Albany's hiring more cops.
Yeah.
Read the room, Kathy. Which is,
I mean, you said Albany, they're hiring more police everywhere.
I know, but Albany's campaign is really visible. There's a flyer inside the Dunkin' Donuts on Madison.
Yeah, and you know it's all them feel-good stories coming out of Spectrum?
Oh my gosh.
There's at least 3 or 4 stories about.
We are so over.
Yeah, we can definitely talk about it next week.
We're going to talk about that next week, about the media campaign to support cops. Propaganda. But
not just support cops, though. Support the department and the whole idea that cops are
yes,
necessary.
Yes.
And not, there's no other way that keeps community safe.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So just reminder, if you're not already on our email list, it also is in the chat on Facebook, but you can join at the Action Network link. I'm not going to read the whole thing like I did last week. That was ridiculous. But also just, following us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter at Untitled and Free. Is how you can find out what's going on, because there are upcoming events.
There's
stuff happening. We just were at City Hall in Schenectady last Thursday, right? Mm-hmm. Shout out to NAACP chapter in Schenectady. Shout out to Schenectady Clergy Against Hate. Shout out to Capital District DSA. Everybody was standing together. It was cold. It was rainy, and we still had, we have counts from between 80 and 100 people.
Yeah.
And that was on a bad day, y'all. Why? Because the city of Schenectady has added need to head holds back to its use of force policy. So people are like, nah, I'm still going to show up. And they did, but it doesn't end there. Myself and Michaela Foster and Casey Charles, you're invited too if you want, are having conversation later today to talk about, we're showing back up and we're going to show up on a consistent basis. And what is that going to look like?
Yeah.
Right? Because we're going to keep a constant presence in Schenectady until they ban the knee holds again. Like, you did it last year. You had it right. Don't mess it up. But that's not the only thing, right? Like here in Schenectady, watching about what's happening with the stimulus money. There, I know the NAACP is looking at the housing crisis and gentrification that's happening here. But also in Albany, we got the power of the people. Thursday at 6 p.m. on Facebook. It'll be live on the Center for Law and Justice page. It'll be live on the All of Us page. You can also find the event on our page and register for the Zoom conversation, because we want people to be in the conversation. So on Thursday at 6 p.m., Power of the People, talking about what's happening in Albany. And I know that, is it tonight or tomorrow, Vicari and Tom, that there's a conversation about tear gas. Right? In Albany, that's either tonight or tomorrow that the city council is talking about tear gas, because these individuals actually were thinking that there should be some type of scenario when they should be allowed to use it. That is the problem right now. They were going for a full ban on the tear gas, but now they're stepping back and considering, well, there might be situations where we might need to use it, and so we should still have it as an option. We know why that's a problem. If you know who your legislator is in Albany, reach out to your Common Council member and let them know how you feel about this. If you are available, go to the City of Albany website, find out how to log in and sign up. We'll include it in our email blast that goes out today. So if you're on the email list, you'll get it. If not, join the email list. That's all I'm saying.
Thank you, Tom. Tom said he tagged us in the post.
Appreciate that. Yeah. But Power of the People is a conversation that centers around the city of Albany, with the Center for Law and Justice, with Youth FX, with, I always get it wrong, Bookshelf. Red Bookshelf. I don't know why I want to call it Red Door Bookshelf. I'm renaming it Batman. I'm just going to rename it.
And listen, for all you motorcycle riders, there's a birthday parade for Jordan. It's coming up. A young mom reached out to a biker community. Her son is going through his second stint of cancer treatment. His birthday is tomorrow. He'll be 13 years old. and we're gonna have a ride out. It starts at 1 o'clock for you early birds. There is something happening at 6 o'clock in the morning on 700 Manning Boulevard. That the brothers are saying be there at 5:30. That's awfully early. I'm saying that right now, and I'm up early anyway. Like I'm up early, I go running and all that stuff. But that means it's going to be a little cold. So if you are a rider and you want to show up, make sure you dress for the occasion. Make sure you're gassed up. We're gonna take some spins and then join the parade later on in the evening in celebration of this young boy who's going through so much. Like this is his second round. Like he already been through it once. He beat it and then it came back. Right. So he's going through it again. He's 13 years old. He's an amazing young fella. And we're just going to be out there supporting. So if y'all show up, y'all got bikes, y'all want to show up, check out, you put it in the thing.
Well, so y'all can see birthday parade for Jordan tomorrow. Yes. I will make sure that gets added to our Facebook page. I don't think it's added yet.
Okay.
So give me a couple minutes after the live and it'll be on our Facebook page.
Yeah.
Because we need to show up as much as we can for each other.
That's a whole fact.
And then I'm really excited about this one.
What's that?
That one.
Interrogating abolition. Yeah.
So go ahead, tell folks about it. And I created a Bitly because that big long link was just ridiculous.
So there's a collaboration between all of us and UAlbany. That's producing a panel discussion with the great Barbara Smith, Barbara Smith. Yeah. Do you want to tell them who Barbara Smith is? Y'all don't know who Barbara Smith is. Shame on you.
Nah, if they don't know who Barbara Smith is, I feel like I'm just not even going to talk to them.
But
just
yeah,
kidding.
I've been given the honor to be a part of this conversation and sit on the panel with her, another a dynamic individual named Zochi, which is a Brown University student. Brown University is pretty dope, right? And they created a program around transformative justice, and it's going to be moderated by Tawny Cruz.
What up, Tawny?
Yeah, she's going for a doctorate. Really, really dope young woman. And it's going to be a really amazing conversation. Talk about the intersections of abolition and how we all came to it. What are our ideas about it? What does it actually mean to decarceration, etc. And one of the brothers that I was incarcerated with for many years is going to have an opportunity to speak on the call and be a part of the panel. So please tune into that. The Bitly is there. You're going to hear some words from him of what he thinks about decarceration and abolition, how he arrived at those ideas, and what he thinks that impact could have on incarceration.
You need to register. You need to register to be able to get the Zoom link. So if you use this Bitly / interrogating abolition, it will take you to the page that gives you all of the information. It has the bio for Barbara Smith, it has the bio for Sean Young and the other panelists, and just information about what the conversation is about. And it's this Thursday. It's at noon.
Yeah.
So that's your lunch break time, y'all. Don't say, oh, it's the middle of the day, I can't do it. Just schedule your lunch break accordingly. That's all. Or I'm not necessarily saying that, if you have your earpiece in and you're sitting at your desk at work or wherever you're working at, that you would be listening to it, even if you are working, but you should. It's going to be worth it. I'm excited. I can't wait.
No, and I'll tell you this, like it's the focus, largely and for a panel discussion like this is for like the university students, right? The students all the way up, right? It's from freshmen to to the doctoral level, other universities, etc. We made sure, which is something that Dr. Haro, which is a really dope professor,
like
shout
that
out to
guy.
Dr. Haro. Like we like to make sure that our communities are involved in hearing some of these conversations and discussions because we can't just operate in the academic space, right? And we have to have these conversations in a very transparent way. And reach as many people as we can with this type of information.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a really dope conversation. If you can tune in for some time just to check it out, to hear posts, there's going to be opportunity to ask questions and just listen in to what it is for those of us that do the work in all many facets like I do. Yeah. Those have been directly impacted by the carceral state. Those of us like Barbara Smith, who's been in this thing forever and for decades, and is so accomplished of an individual in this struggle for our people. And hear what what she has to say about the work and what she's seen and how abolition impacts that.
And how to move forward and what the actions are to take. Because having a conversation just to have a conversation, it's great. And maybe you learn some things, but if there's not something you can do, it's a missed opportunity. And we don't do that. We don't miss opportunities. We're not playing. Schenectady, take note. We're not playing. We're at 45.
And this was a really good conversation.
Yes, it was.
We got time, man. So listen, I appreciate y'all. I hope to see many of you on the call, on that Zoom. And I'll see you in the streets. We coming.
Yeah, listen, just y'all make sure if you do nothing else, go and follow us on Facebook. It's really not that hard. I mean, it's the same on Instagram and Twitter. It's at Untitled and Free. That way you get the notifications. Don't just like it. Make sure you follow the page because Facebook is, weird about its algorithms. So tomorrow, there's going to be the ride for Jordan. On Thursday, there's all kinds of fun stuff that's happening. That's going to be great conversations, whether it's Power of the People or Interrogating Abolition. And there's more coming. Join the email list. Be ready for what's coming next.
All right, y'all. Y'all have a great rest of y'all week.
Yeah.
See you soon.
Laters.